Hello, audience. My name is Dawson. His name is Justin.
Hello.
And welcome back to another movie review. Today, we're going to be watching a movie that I've wanted to see for quite a while now. I was really excited for it. But unfortunately, the month it came out in theaters, I ended up in the hospital with an injured back and never got to theaters to see it. But it's a world I'm really interested in. It's a movie I was really interested in seeing, and that is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
So my initial plan with for this movie was to watch all the Harry Potter movies first, just because I felt like I wanted to see them all. But yeah, I'm probably going to always be too lazy to watch all of them because that's a long venture to go with. So yeah, I think it's just better we just watch it as is.
Yeah,
Let's just get right into it.
yeah.
And we're back. So we just finished watching Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Dawson, would you please tell us the synopsis? Anything else you want to say?
The synopsis to Fantastic Beasts is the adventures of writer Newt Scamander in New York's secret community of witches and wizards 70 years before Harry Potter reads his book in school. Now, this movie stars a big cast of people, so excuse me while I read these off, and also my pronunciation of these people's names. Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, Catherine Watterson as Porpetina Goldstein, Colin Farrell as Percival Graves, slash another character, Ezra Miller as Credence, Ellison Sudol as Queenie Goldstein, and Dan Fogler as Jacob Kowalski.
Hmm.
Huge cast of people. Um, now, can I start?
Go for it.
Because usually you start, and
You can
I have
go
some
ahead. I
words.
don't, I don't mind.
Um, so I am a fairly big fan of Harry Potter. I am not a Potterhead, but I really enjoy the movie series. I grew up with it, as many of us have. I owned it on VHS, and I loved the Harry Potter movies. Every single time they came on ABC Family during the whole marathon events, I loved watching them. And they're a movie that my grandparents also love watching, and it's just a lot of fun for the whole family. So when I heard that there's going to be a kind of prequel to the Harry Potter series, I was really excited. And when I found out that Eddie Redmayne was going to be casted as the lead, and I found out that it's going to be a movie about beasts and really cool magic and New York City and magic in America, which is something that they uh, really lightly touched on here and there in the movies and books. I was really excited to see where this could go. Also, hearing that J.K. Rowling had more of a say in things also had me very intrigued because in the original Harry Potter movies, of course, she is the author of it, and of course, she had says here and there. But when it comes to adaptations of books to movies, usually the author doesn't really have creative control.
Hmm.
Um, so I was kind of excited to see that she wrote the screenplay, and she was also going to be a producer on the movie. Um, and I have to say, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. I hate saying for what it was. Like when you say, I like something for what it is, I always kind of get a little bit bitter with that saying because I feel like, you can like something but also have problems with it, and that's what I had with this movie. I enjoyed it. I think it was kind of fun, and it was a different side of the wizarding world. But there is a whole sleuth of problems. Um, I honestly, I don't really have problems with any of the characters per se. I think that they all did what they were supposed to do with the script that they were given, and I think that they followed. I think they followed direction very well, and I think that they worked within this movie. I feel like one of the huge downfalls of this movie it comes down to two things. It comes down to J.K. Rowling is a novel artist or a novel writer.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't write screenplays. So having her write the screenplay for this movie, I felt that was a big downfall. She also wrote, of course, the new. It's called The Cursed Child, which is technically not within the Harry Potter universe, but also is the future, kind of the future continuation with Harry and Harry and his future kids, and future Hogwarts and stuff like that. And it was adapted to this play. Some like it, some don't. But the overall kind of consumption. What's it called, Justin?
Hmm?
Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Overall, what's that word?
I don't know.
Contempt.
Consensus?
Yeah, that's the word. I cannot say that word. The overall, that word right there, is that she's not meant to write screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
She's meant to really, really create vivid worlds, but not necessarily adapt them into a screenplay. That's for screenplay writers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second downfall of this movie has to be its visuals. The CGI elements in this movie are horrid at some points. Harry Potter, the last one, only came out a few years ago, but even in the beginning, some of its CGI elements were better than this one, or better than this movie. There were so many times where they could have totally went practical with a lot of their scenes, especially with like some of the really close-up shots with, say, the some of the elves, or I don't really know what to call them. They're not gremlins, but they're I can't think of the word,
The house
but
elves? Like Dobby?
not like Dobby, but like in the original Harry Potter movies, like the bankers and stuff.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think I know what you're talking about.
They were in this movie. The guy
Like on the bar?
yeah, the guy who owned the bar, who was trying to get like they're new, and all of them are trying to get information.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a fully CGI character, and I felt that could have totally been practical.
Mm-hmm.
There was no point to do a CGI character at that. There's just a lot of really close-up characters that don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And they totally could have went practical with a lot of their characters. Now, I understand the giant beasts, they're not going to come up with puppets, and they're not going to do that kind of stuff with the giant beasts, but I was very, very, very disappointed with the look of a lot of them. Not in design-wise, just in practicality and, meshing the real world with these CGI elements. They just stood out like a sore thumb. There's like scenes that that they're interacting with the beasts, whether it's Newt Scamander petting the Thunderbird, which I thought was really, really cool. Hearing him say that he was from Arizona, the Tucson, Arizona Thunderbird, the myth and legend. Hearing that that incorporated within the Harry Potter universe, I thought was cool. But when he's petting that giant bird, super, super obvious that he's petting, more likely like a green screen ball.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're inside the suitcase and they're picking up these serpent creatures and they're holding them, you can obviously tell they're literally holding nothing. There's nothing for them to interact with in their hands, and it really, really shows. Like I said, acting wise, it's not their fault. I just felt that they were really, really, really heavily. They were using the CGI as a huge crutch in this movie, and I think that's another. The second really big drawback is just the screenplay shouldn't have been written by a novelist, especially one who you've seen her books adapted into movies so well, and I felt like they should have just left it to the screenplay writers, and also the CGI elements and the visuals in this movie were really lackluster. Um, Overall, story wise, I think was pretty well done, I guess. What I said, like with the screenplay, the story was somewhat understandable. There are a few elements of it that are a little bit foggy. Of course, you have Ezra Miller's character. He played Credence, and he is, I believe they're called
They're
Obscural.
obscure. I think they called them like
I think
a
they're
couple different things, but they're basically like obscure something.
I think they're Obscural. Um, and my understanding of what it is it's a wizard that or a young wizard that I guess holds their magic in and
Hmm.
doesn't really have any formal training. They kind of just suppress their magic,
Hmm.
and once they get to a certain age, without the training, without any, just anything, um, they turn into a dark entity. That's my understanding, I suppose, which I guess is why they send young wizards to school soon, like Harry and all of them, getting their letter from Hogwarts so
Hmm.
that they don't turn into these things. He was fine, though I felt like it was pretty quick and didn't really have any grave consequences. Besides one fatality, really, that we know of.
There
Um,
was, I think, two.
who else? Oh, the
His
mom.
mother, yeah.
Yeah, so like two fatalities, but the rest of it was just rebuilt at the end.
Hmm.
That there's no huge consequences. Um, Now seeing Percival Grave, who you don't really know whose side he's on, I guess, until the very end when you see that he is the character. Oh God, I'm trying to remember. Gellert Grindelwald.
Yeah,
Um,
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald, who you hear kind of whispers of throughout the movie. And from my knowledge, Grindelwald was a friend of Albus Dumbledore's,
Hmm.
who kind of betrayed and crossed him. And Grindelwald is the second most dark wizard in the wizarding world, next to Lord Voldemort. So he's a very, 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 very powerful dark wizard, who I only have to assume that we're going to be seeing in the future Fantastic Beasts movies. Um, but that kind of build up to his character being revealed. You know, I I have to be honest. I already knew, because it has been very, very long time since the movie's been out, so it's already been spoiled for me.
I'm
But
just
just
gonna say right
seeing,
now, I did not know.
just seeing the build up to it, I wasn't too impressed. It wasn't like we were following this character and we kind of built trust with this character, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like a betrayal to the audience. Um, I don't know.
There
I
actually
felt
was not really much of a way that Newt should have known who he actually was. Like he didn't really in that scene. He didn't really have any kind of like, oh, I'm completely evil kind of moments, except like attacking the what magic council or whatever. Um, but that was kind of also understandable because they just killed a kid. So it's like
yeah.
as far from what I can recall, like, I have shit memory sometimes. He didn't really have many like evil tendencies.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I feel like Newt. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like Newt might have had some sneaking suspicion since the beginning.
Hmm.
possibly of something. I'm not exactly sure. I agree with you. There wasn't really anything that I can remember that was kind of in your face, like, oh, okay, so we're about to unmask the villain. Um, but I just felt like his unmasking was, I agree, like a little lackluster. Again, I feel like this movie was fun. It was enjoyable, but I can't say it was the next great installment in the Harry Potter franchise. I am looking forward to future movies. I feel like they can learn from what they did wrong in this one. I don't know if J.K. Rowling will be writing screenplays for the next one. I kind of hope not, though. She is the pioneer of the wizarding world, and everything comes from her mind. I feel like she should give the ideas and the story she wants to tell, but leave it up to somebody else to adapt it.
Hmm.
Um,
That's what was so good about the original Harry Potter films. They already had a story to them, but
mhm.
these are not books.
No,
So
I
it's
mean
like,
there is a book, but this whole movie is literally based off of a textbook you see
mhm,
in the Harry Potter movies,
yeah,
and you know it's a very cool concept. It's cool to you hear Newt Scamander in Harry Potter. You see them reading from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It sounds like a really really cool adventure, and it was. And I'm looking forward to see more of the adventure of these characters. But I hope that they learn from the mistakes they made with this one with the following movies, because I think we're getting three.
that sounds about right.
I think we're getting a trilogy of Fantastic Beasts. So there's plenty of breathing room, and there's plenty to learn from this one. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's not terrible. I didn't have a miserable time watching it, but I felt like there was a lot of mistakes that could have really been easily resolved with just some better writing and better CG elements.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like those are my thoughts. What do you think?
Um, I kind of share a lot of your sentiments. I think the movie overall was pretty good. I can't call myself a Harry Potter fan at all. I've seen all the movies except for the very final one, but that was also in like middle school, and so I can't really call myself a fan. They're interesting to me, but I always fell on more of the Percy Jackson side of those kind of fantasy books for kids. So Harry Potter was never really my thing. Um, but this movie I thought was enjoyable. I thought, yeah, some of the CG elements were not great, but the beasts themselves, when they weren't really being interacted with by humans, I thought they looked good. I thought they were cool creatures because you don't really see giant fantasy creatures very often, feels like. So it's really cool to see just like different, like basically different combinations of animals. A lot of them were,
Mhm.
um, and I don't know. The story was good for the most part. Like what we said. The unmasking of the villain wasn't great. Um, and this is kind of not really here nor there for a review, but um, I Credence's face was like on the tip of my tongue for the entirety of the movie. Like knew, I knew the person, but I could not place it. So hearing you say Esmeralda, I was like, "Fuck, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right." Because like, it's amazing what a different haircut can do for a person to completely change their look overall. Um, but I don't know. Overall, I thought the movie was good. I thought the CG elements were good and bad at points. Um, I don't know. I'm not really. I don't really know how I feel about this movie too much because I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, so I don't really know about much about this universe as I potentially should going into this movie.
One other thing I had to mention that I wish they would have done more in this movie is actual spells
Hmm.
and not just flicks of the wand
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff. There were a few actual spells in this movie, but I feel like that they they relied on a lot of just you know audience being like, oh, they're doing stuff.
Yeah, from what I can recall, I feel like towards the end of the Harry Potter movies, they started just doing that loud, just flicking their wand and creating lights. But I do also remember a bunch of different spells from Harry Potter, but it seems like a lot of times it was just a flick of the wand, and oh, we can do whatever we want just by flicking our wand.
I don't know. It didn't. It kind of did bug me.
Mhm.
There was a few funny moments in the movie. Two notably um, were Newt and Jacob trying to catch Niffler, um, and he was inside of a jewelry store and also inside of a bank, and just how much stuff he could fit inside his little pouch.
Mhm.
And Newt's shaking him, and there's just tons of stuff falling out of his pouch. I got a chuckle out of that, and I think probably the biggest laugh in the movie is when Newt and Jacob are in Central Park, trying to get some of the beasts back in the suitcase, and they get chased by what can only be described as like a hippopotamus rhino. And they're all in, Jacob's in football gear, and he's being chased around. And I thought it was funny,
Mhm.
that scene in general. But definitely the jewelry store and bank scene kind of tied together, and then the Central Park scene. Um, yeah, I think those were kind of funny parts, but mostly it was not serious. There just wasn't really.
It wasn't meant to be comedic, but also
No, it
wasn't
wasn't
meant to
really.
be overtly serious.
Yeah, it was just kind of like it was a very neutral movie.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be fantastical.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a spectacle more than anything. Um, which they did all right at. I can't say it was a huge spectacle, but without kind of going in circles. Justin, what would you rate Fantastic Beasts? And yeah,
I think I will give Fantastic Beasts a 7.5.
okay.
What do you give it?
I give Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them a 7.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean it's the Harry Potter universe. It's always worth just a watch. Not for everyone, but it's definitely just enjoyable for what it is, which is a term I don't like using.
I concur. So that's two thumbs up, and that's pretty much it for us, guys. So let us know down below what did you think of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Until next time, guys, we shall see you later.
Bye.